Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. In today's card I'm using the Sheltering Tree set by Stampin' Up. I'm not going to be using these dies, I changed my mind. And then this is the Simon Says Stamp Postage Edge frames. And I've got that on my Stampin' Storage magnetic card. So I'm going to use my Misty and my grid sheet to center this tree in the middle of my cardstock. And I'm going to ink it up with some Memento Rich Cocoa ink. And I'm doing it in my Misty so I can do it again because I knew my ink pad was kind of dry. And so now I've cleaned off my stamp and I'm placing it directly on top of my Memento. Now I'm going to push it up, you see here, right here. I'm going to push it up maybe like a millimeter or 1.5 millimeters. And you can see it's off center now. And then I'm going to stamp it again, but I'm going to stamp it in some Versamark ink. And so this is going to cover a lot of the brown, but also some of the white that's on top. And notice that I pushed it up, I didn't push it off to the side because you want the snow to be on top of the tree. So once I have that heat set, you can see that because the branches are so thin, in some areas when I pushed it up, it left a gap between the tree branch, the brown tree branch, and my embossed tree branch. So I'm going to take this Versamarker, which is Versamark ink pad in pen form, and I'm going to fill in the gap. So everywhere I see that there's space between my Versamark image and my Memento image, I'm just going to use the fine tip portion of my pen to fill that in. It seemed like I had more gaps on the right side of my tree than the left side of my tree. It's just really hard when you're moving it such a small amount. Alright, so now I've got all those areas covered. I'm just going to heat emboss it again. And this is clear powder, by the way. This is not white powder. Because you'd think white powder for snow, but no, you need to use clear powder. So once that's done, now I'm going to take this other stamp that comes in the set and I'm going to ink it up with some Versamark. And I'm going to kind of randomly put a bunch of these all over the bottom here. So I'm going to put some, you know, kind of off center, in between, on top of, and just to kind of get a mishmash look. And this is going to be the snow. So it's going to look like snowbanks because this image is not a solid image. So I'm just stamping it all over the place. And now I'm actually going to be using white embossing powder because I want it to look like white snow. And you can see how you get some gaps. It looks kind of like a snowdrift. And now I'm going to heat that to set it. And that will take care of my snow on the ground. Now I want to have some falling snow. So I'm going to use some masking fluid. And I've got this brush that is dedicated to my masking fluid because it does mess up your brush a little bit. And I'm going to start off. I want small drops and big drops because I want some of the snow to seem like it's in the foreground and some in the background. So I start off by putting just a little bit of masking fluid on my brush. And so when you have just a little bit on there, you're just going to get small dots when you tap it from above. And then I put a little bit more and I'm getting some medium dots now. And then when I dip it in a third time, I'm going to just get more of this fluid. It's kind of hard to tell in the video, but I do have more fluid on my brush here. And you can see that the drops are actually larger now. And I definitely want a lot because I want it to be a nice, thick storm of snow. So when that's all dry, which only takes a few minutes, I'm going to take 3 different Distress ink colors. The first one is Broken China, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. I'm eventually going to go back and fill in those gaps in between the snow on the ground with some Broken China. For now, I'm just focusing on the sky behind the tree. So in the lowest level of my sky, I'm going to have Broken China. And then for my next kind of level that it fades into, it's going to be Faded Jeans, which is kind of a medium blue color. And it's not going to be perfect, and I'm just going to put light pressure and just make sure that I get all of this covered in pretty dark color because you want the snow to really stand out, and it'll stand out if it's a really dark color in the background. Alright, so here's where I take my Broken China and just kind of fill in those gaps. It kind of looks like it's a reflection off the snow, I think. And I just took my absorber to wipe off any excess ink that got on my embossing powder there. Now it's time to remove the masking fluid, and it's really easy to do. I just gently rub in circles and it comes right off. It really doesn't stick and it doesn't rip up your paper. At least it didn't on regular paper. I had some issues with watercolor paper, but on regular paper it seems just fine. And now you can see how pretty that white snow looks in the background and how easy it was to get that look. Now I'm using the largest postage edge frame because I want this to kind of look like a postage stamp, like a Christmas stamp. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through my Big Shot. And you can see how nice that looks, just a kind of a nice finished edge. Now I have this Hero Arts Christmas sentiment set that I've had for a really long time. I don't know where I got it, and I'm not sure if it's easy to find, but it has so many different Christmas and holiday sentiments in it in all different forms, long, short, vertical, horizontal. I picked this one because it was nice and simple and it wasn't going to take away or distract from my design. So I just wanted the first word, so I covered the whole thing up with some surgical tape, and then I'm using some pigment ink. I like to use the pigment ink with the surgical tape because I feel like it doesn't absorb into it, and I don't want it to get on the other part of my stamp. So now, for some reason, when I stamped this, it got mushed up a little bit. I'm not sure why, because that usually doesn't happen with Hero Art stamps. But it's an easy fix. I just took my Copic multi-liner. It's a 0.3, and I went over the letters, and this pen, it comes in handy so often for me. I just use it all the time for different touch-up things and stuff like that. So anyway, now that I'm done with that, I'm going to add some Scotch foam tape to the back to pop it up off the card. And this is just a Neenah Solar White card base that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch folded. And that's the card for today. I really like this card. It's very relaxing when I look at it. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.